Hello and welcome back for another episode of the Purple Rain Report. In this episode, just gonna be hitting a whole bunch of different topics about Ravens related news. We're gonna talk some off the field stuff for certain members of the team. We're gonna squash the AB rumors because that is just not happening. Talk about Lamar Jackson on being the next cover of Madden. Some signings that were officially announced after after being not speculated, but after being agreed upon terms, some signings that being officially announced, how with the update on the contract extension talks between the team and a couple guys up for new deals here pretty soon, and then I'm just kind of break down a little bit of the schedule after it was officially released last week. So yeah, let's just dive right into it. Let's start off with the top. I don't want to spend too much time on this because I really believe it's nobody's business. But the whole thing with Earl Thomas and his wife. Like I said, this is not a Ray Rice, Janae Rice situation. I think people have been real insensitive with some of the things that have been put out there about Earl and his business. What happened between him and his wife is that's their business. It shouldn't be taken lightly, made fun of. I really can't stand TMZ. I'm not like I wasn't never justifying what Ray Rice did, but like the fact that these people just grease whatever palms they need to do and just sit on these stories and release them at the most inopportune times. Like when it's really nobody's business. Like if that were the case, if that happened between two individuals or three or four or whatever, in the case of Earl Thomas, that's nobody's business. Like it's. I understand that those police reports are public record, but the fact that you come up with the story and no one is that is gonna kind of trying to defame these professional athletes. And the thing that pisses me off about TMZ so much is they spend so much time trying to tear down athletes for any and all the transgressions, and they never want to build anybody up. I've yet to read a TMZ piece where they're talking about the good that a professional athlete or somebody's doing in the community. They're always fishing for something for some kind of gotcha story or oh my gosh, like it's just something that just grabs headlines for the wrong reasons. And like I said, I'm not gonna go into detail about it. No, Earl Thomas do not violate anything in this contract that would void any guaranteed money. I know there was an article on Pro Football Talk, talking about the possibility of that didn't happen. He had a gun held to his head, not the other way around. And if anything, he was the victim. But like I said, we're not gonna get into that. I'm gonna just move past that. I wanted to just talk about that, get that off, off rip. That's just, like I said, it's really nobody's business. And I appreciate, I appreciate for people stop sending me the memes of that I've seen in relation to Earl Thomas and the incident happened to him between him and his wife over a month ago. Like I said, it's old news. And of course, people like TMZ will really have that gotcha journalism. I don't consider journalism, but like I digress. Moving on to some positive news. Um, for the first time since I believe Ray Lewis was on it back at I can't remember which Madden it was, but there's going to be a Raven on the cover of Madden, and I am ecstatic. And as we all know, that that Raven is reigning league MVP Lamar Jackson. Of course he go. I mean, like I mean, no disrespect to Russell Wilson or Christian McCaffrey or really anybody else, but no, like I mean, the season that Lamar Jackson had in 2019 was one for the ages. And like I said, I've even argued and lamented the fact that he was, to me, more impressive than the season that Patrick Mahomes had previously in 2018. The fact that what Lamar was able to do with both his arms and his legs, I mean, he was the clear cut runaway. The same way he was a unanimous MVP for league MVP as far as the voting. I mean, there shouldn't even really have been a debate about who's going to be on the cover of Madden. As far as the Madden curse has goes, look, y'all. Patrick Mahomes was on the cover of Madden last year, and this dude, yeah, he didn't win MVP again, but he got the better MVP. He got Super Bowl MVP. He won the chip. And the year before that, Antonio Brown was on it. The year Antonio Brown had a mental breakdown, but that didn't happen to the year Patrick Mahomes was on the cover of Madden. The year following AB's, he's on the cover of Madden. He had a great season. He one of the league leaders in pretty much every receiving category category. So like I said, I don't think there's anything the Madden curse is real anymore. Like I said, Tom Brady's on the cover of Madden, won the Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes on the cover of Madden, won the Super Bowl. So I mean, if that's the recent trend, then shoot, might as well pencil the Ravens in Super Bowl 55 right now. You know, so I'm real excited about that. I'm so excited that's going to be the cover art of this episode, and you're probably looking at it right now. But yes, that's going to be the cover art of this episode. Lamar Jackson on the cover of Madden. And if this guy is anything short of a 99, it's a travesty. He should be the best. He is the best player to use on Madden. I've seen so many memes and so many not memes, but so many videos of people cooking with the Ravens on Madden. Like I'm a diehard Ravens fan, so that's been my team on Madden. If you want to play me Madden, I don't play professionally. I'm probably the best. I'm probably the best amateur Madden player out there, let me backtrack on that. I don't want no smoke from Hollywood Brown, 'cause I feel like that dude was just cooking me up. But like, as far as like all my friends that I played, people in my circles that I traveled with, can't nobody touch me in Madden, especially when I used the Ravens. I'm untouchable. Especially if you got Lamar Jackson, I used to never run my quarterbacks because, I had Joe Flacco. I'm not gonna run him. Where am I gonna go? But with Lamar Jackson, it's just that, I just feel so much freedom when I play Madden. I know I'm gonna cut somebody up. So the Ravens are the best. To me, the Ravens are the most fun team to play with on Madden with Lamar Jackson able to do, and it's well deserved. Kudos, my man. Kudos, kudos, kudos. And okay, moving on. So like I said, this is gonna be a shorter episode than the last one. Um, I just want to. I can't officially squash because I'm not a team official, but just the whole AB rumors. I know, like he's working out with Lamar in Hollywood earlier this off season, and posted a picture of him in the Ravens jersey with 84. And I got friends in group chats that I've been in that I've been in, and real close friends, diehard Ravens fans themselves. Shout out to my boy Darren, but it's not happening. It's not happening, folks. The whole AB to Baltimore thing is not happening. I mean, I don't even want him. I don't even want his cousin around him. The dude is just he's not right. He's not right in the head. He's a locker room cancer, and he's a real toxic human being. I mean, this is he's so subject. He's subject to meltdown and blow up at any moment. It's just you can't trust that volatile kind of personality. For what the Ravens are trying to accomplish, what they're striving for. I mean, this is a team that is ready made for championship contention. And the fact that they went out and drafted two receivers in the draft, and Devin Duvernay and James Porsche, and you're gonna get a healthy Hollywood, in year two. There's no need for a guy like Antonio Brown. So miss me with that. It's not happening. The Ravens have came out and even they haven't, emphatically like, oh no, it's not happening, but probably not. Pretty much they're being nice about it. It's because, like I said, Hollywood is his cousin, but at the same time, like anybody who thinks the Ravens are going to sign Antonio Brown, you're bugging. Like I said, this is the most run heavy team in the league. Even though, even though the Ravens are the most run heavy team, tell me this is the beautiful thing about the Ravens offense. The fact that they're the most run heavy team, yet their quarterback led the league in passing touchdowns. Because you don't have to throw it. You don't have to throw the ball as much as you run the ball in order to be a balanced team. But if the times that you do drop that your quarterback does drop that back to pass, and that one. The receivers catch the ball, and two, that he has a clean pocket in which to throw from, and he's a competent thrower. But it's just the efficiency. If you only throw the ball like said 20, 25 times a game, but if you're completing damn near all of those passes, or at least the vast majority of them, then you're golden. And if a lot of those are going for touchdowns, and leading to scoring drives, then even better. So that's what I think is really cool about that. But I just don't think a guy like Antonio Brown would be a good fit in Baltimore, just because the Ravens receivers don't get a whole lot of targets, so they got to make the most of what they got. But a guy like Antonio Brown, I'm not saying he can't make the most of what he got, but he's the kind of dude that as soon as he has a game or a few games where he receives like less than his ideal amount of targets that he would like, he's gonna start throwing a fit and doing typical Antonio Brown things. This dude hasn't worked out with the Saints and made a music video out of it. It's, I just No, it's not happening. And Tony Brown to the Baltimore Ravens is not happening, and not happening. I repeat, not happening. As I can't officially say that because I'm not affiliated with the team, but like I said, I'm not Eric DeCosta. I don't make the calls or sign any checks, but I don't see it. I don't see it. It ain't happening. But then I'm just gonna get into some signings now. The Ravens have made in the past week. We'll start off with the signing of DJ Fluker, a former first round pick of the San Diego Chargers. Now Los Angeles Chargers at the University of Alabama back in 2013. He started 14 games for the Seahawks last year. He's a veteran guy. Like I said, I mean, the Ravens pounced on him quick. I mean, he was released on the 26th, and he agreed to terms with the Ravens on the 28th. So this was the guy that like that is like that the Ravens are, you said, kind of, like I said, they didn't want him to stay on the market too long, and as soon as he was a guy that was going to have suitors as soon as he did come available, and after the Seahawks drafted a couple offensive linemen in this year's draft, they kind of saw Fluker as expendable, and but to be able to, he said he started 14 games with the Seahawks last year, and they were one of the more efficient running teams in the league too. And just like say having a big massive guy like that, and he's like 6'5", 340. Like I said, a real big mauler. He's gonna come right in. And like I was looking on the NFL Network, and they already have him penciled in as the starting right guard. Like I said, that's a little premature. Like I said, he still has to come in and compete, but there's no reason to believe that he won't be the early front runner. I know Ben Powers, they start the final game of the year for the in Marshallstead last year, and that he was considered the front runner prior to the draft and prior to the Fluker signing, and I still think he has the chance to stake his claim to that job. But it's probably one of the fiercest competitions, probably the fiercest competition in camp for the Ravens is for the right guard spot. I think all of those guys, like I said, Ben Bredesen, fourth round pick, Tyree Phillips, third round pick, Ben Powers, fourth round pick from last year. Now add Fluker in the mix, and even some undrafted guys. I can't remember the guy they took out of San Diego. They signed out of San Diego State, the undrafted guy, but another notable dude. But I just think it's going to be the fiercest competition in camp. Is for the right guard. It's for the right guard spot vacant. But nobody's. Like I said, it's going to take a lot to replace. Nobody can replace the Hall of Famer and what Marshall was, but like I said, they do need a replacement level player in that lineup, and a guy like Fluker can add. Like I said, he has experience. He's had a veteran presence, and the dude's a mauler. The Ravens love Alabama dudes. Like I said, the pipeline from the Ravens from the Alabama to the Ravens hasn't been as as consistent since Eric took over. But like I said, they like I said the Ravens, like I said, former Alabama guy. The Ravens, he's on the Ravens now, so that's all that matters. I think the length of the deal is only a 1 year deal. But like I said, I think this is a move that shows that the Ravens like, look, we're all in on 2020. Like this is going to be our year. So like even though we drafted Tyree Phillips and Ben Bredesen and Ben Powers, we want the guys that are going to give us the best chance to win and be the dominant unit that we were last year, and and improve upon that. It's hard. It's going to be hard to get better without one of your best offensive lineman in Marcianda. But adding a guy like Fluker shows them that, like, hey, like in case these young guys don't pan out, we got a dude that has some starts under his belt, some pelts on the wall, and this is the guy that can move people and be like I said, be a rogue at a running game. I think he'll fit right in next to. I mean, look, that's almost 1,000 pounds of that's almost I'm sorry, that's almost 700 pounds of muscle right there. If he's lined up next to Orlando Brown, a guy like Orlando Brown is like I think around 240 himself at right tackle, pro right tackle, and I think a guy like TJ Fluker. If those two were to line up right next to each other, I know Orlando might prefer to have Ben Powers there, just because they had an Oklahoma connection, and they're real close friends. But I also believe that he would welcome the best guy, even if it's not his best buddy. I think he'll welcome the best guy. Another signing that the Ravens made recently was the signing of inside linebacker Jake Ryan. The deal was originally reported the week of the draft. But it was officially announced last week. A veteran inside linebacker was well, he was looking at a wide open depth chart before when he agreed to terms. And even though the additions of Queen and Harrison have changed that, but if healthy, he could still carve out a role in this defense and especially on special teams. In 2020, it's like he'll be a good depth guy and a core special teams player. Pretty much all the Ravens linebackers play special teams, and like I said, the Ravens have put a high value on special teams. The guy Jake Ryan, who has starting experience in the league. Like they struggled with injuries with Jacksonville last year, but before that, I think he was like a 2 or 3 year starter with the Packers, and like I said, he has starting experience. And like I said, in case maybe you don't even have nothing is guaranteed to anybody in this league, and like I said, no starting spots or anything like that, especially not on the Ravens. And you never know. Maybe a guy like Harrison doesn't, maybe he has a bit of a steep learning curve. A guy like Jake Ryan is just making more plays in training camp. The Ravens will go they will play the best player. If it's not Harrison right away, then he will not play right away. And so they're not gonna force a guy to start lineup just because of his draft position. So a guy like Jake Ryan, if he shows up and shows out in training camp, he could very well, like I said, be a rotational guy if not a starter for this team. You never know. And then finally, the third signing that really kind of got me excited and that I saw coming was the re-signing of Pernell McPhee. Um, I was actually, when the news broke, I was in the midst of writing an article about which veteran path rushes the Ravens target, on the open market. I was throwing around guys like I did not have Jadeveon Clowney on that list. No, I'm just not even going to entertain that. But I had like Clay Matthews, Everson Griffin, Marcus Golden from the Giants, who had 10 sacks last year. Everson Griffin has had like I think over 50 sacks in the past few seasons. And in like the last like five or 8 seasons, whatever how long he's been in the league, veteran guy, Everson Griffin. And I got Clay Matthews, who the Ravens offered a more substantial contract than the one he ended up signing with the Rams, and he ended up getting signed. He ended up getting released off season, and despite playing with suffering broken jaw, he still managed to get 8 sacks last year. But the Ravens offered instead to go with the option that they know and is most familiar, and then that is Pernell McPhee. McPhee's not a slouch in his own right. He got off to a pretty hot start last year. For the Ravens, he had 19 tackles and 3 sacks in 7 games before suffering a season-ending torn triceps injury. But like I said, he's a guy that, like I said, familiar with the Ravens system, one of the core veteran leaders in this team. Like I said, he was a huge part of that Super Bowl winning team in 2012. After the 2014 season, signed a big contract with the Bears, then kind of bounced around a little bit between them and the Redskins, and then signed with the Ravens last offseason after the draft. Is one of those guys that don't count against the comp formula. And he ended up being a starter. He ended up working his way to a starting role, began the season as a starter. And really kind of help guys like Jalen Ferguson develop, and like I said, Jalen Ferguson he came in and started in McPhee's stead after he went down with his torn tricep injury, came on strong, and McPhee, I think he doesn't necessarily have to be a starter anymore. Like I know he was a starter last year for 7 games, but I think with all the additions in the interior of the Ravens defensive line, and the Pernell McPhee is the versatile guy who can rush inside outside, but I think a reduction in snaps, like never a reduction, but becoming more of a rotational piece than an every down, like 3 down edge rusher will kind of help preserve him and kind of help him kind of stay fresh and maybe even be more impactful. Because the fact that they'll be able to use him in a multitude of ways still, and he'll be able to spend more time on the edge more so than trying to come in on stunts and stuff on the interior and maybe end up getting double teamed or whatever, or getting picked up by the back. So now he'll be able to devote more time to being an edge rusher and still be able to mentor guys like Jalen Ferguson and like that guy like who I mentioned in the last podcast, Chauncey Rivers, Mississippi State, another former Mississippi State Bulldog, and last chance Eastern Mississippi community college. So that's another guy that he can end up mentoring. But Pearl McPhee is just like a good locker room presence and a solid contributor. So you kind of get the best of both worlds there for a very, very, very low price. I'm pretty sure he signed somewhere around a veteran minimum, not too much money. But like the fact that what they're gonna get from Pearl McPhee and just having him on a team is far greater than whatever check they're cutting him. So that was great. Those like I said, those three signings became official this past over the course of the past week. Some more Ravens related news. The team has opened up contract talks with All Pro offensive left tackle Ronnie Stanley, who's entering the final year of his rookie deal after since they picked up his fifth year option. He was the sixth overall pick in the 2016 draft. And then they also opened up contract talks with Matt Judon, outside linebacker Matt Judon, who earned his first Pro Bowl bid this past season after recording a career high 9.5 sacks. Like I said, he got franchise tagged, and there was some talk about him possibly being traded this offseason, especially leading up to and during the draft, but the Ravens opted to hold on to him, and for good reason, especially since they didn't draft at edge rusher. And but I think a guy like Matt Judon and Ronnie Stanley, I know for sure they're gonna want to hold on to Stanley. I know they opened up contract talks with Matt Judon, and depending on how much he wants, I think what the beautiful thing what the Ravens have going on is that I think the guys realize that what special group that they have here, and they really want to stick and ride with this wave. A guy like Marcus Peters, who became an All Pro after he got traded to the Ravens, he could have made a lot more money on the open market, but he opted instead to re-sign with the Ravens during the season, and he's kind of taking less to stick with this team because he knows this team, this group, the group that he's a part of on that side of the ball, and on his team as a whole is on the verge on the precipice of being a really great team, a championship contending team, and really arguably the best team in the league. I mean, the Chiefs are going to hold that mantle until somebody wins the next Lombardi Trophy, but the Ravens are definitely primed to give them a run for their money in 2020. I think a guy like Matt Judon, who some people were talking about him possibly wanting to break the bank and get played as one of the upper echelon guys, but I think if the guys, the kind of guys that the Ravens like and the Ravens target, they're not in the mood for losing any more of their premier talent. Like they lost two of their top three edge rushers last offseason when Terrell Suggs decided to sign with the Cardinals, and they couldn't afford to keep Darius Smith, who ended up signing and having a great season with the Green Bay Packers, and they made sure that wasn't going to happen again with Matt Judon, so they placed the franchise tag on them. And the hopes that Eric DeCosta even came out and said the hopes of working on extensions with these guys would lessen their cap hits over the long haul. So instead of letting them hit the open market, if you work out an extension now, it'll give the team more cap flexibility for the long haul. So that's why the Ravens always try to do extensions instead of re-signings. Re-signing is letting the guy hit the open market and to bring the contract, whereas an extension you're just adding on and kind of smoothing that cap number out over more years so that the team has more flexibility to do other things. As far as who might get done first, it's a bit of a tricky one. Like I said, like the Matt Judon deserves every penny he gets, that he's worth. But it's just sometimes that language can be a little that the contract can be a little tricky. You don't want to. I know a guy like him who's able to record double-digit sacks probably wouldn't want the sack incentive implemented into his contract or embedded in his contract. So he probably will want to avoid that. But the one that's probably going to be it's not probably going to be. It's going to be a little difficult for the team to negotiate now. Is the Ronnie Stanley one because he's coming from All Pro season. He graded out as the top offensive tackle in the league, and he graded out the top offensive tackle in the league. Yet the highest paid tackle in the league right now is the Texans made Larry Tunsil the highest paid left tackle of this offseason by signing him to a 3-year, deal worth 66 million, 50 million fully guaranteed, and it averages out to about 20 million annually, which reset the market by 5.5 million. The next closest guy is the Colts Anthony Costanzo, who with 16.5 million per year, and that was around 60 million was around like what the market was set at for from premier left tackles until the Texans just decided to let Larry Tunsil blow it out of the water, and I don't. It really frustrates me is I mean, Larry Tunsil, I'm not hating on him because he had all the leverage in the world. They traded all those picks for him, and they didn't sign him to a new deal right away, which what smart GMs, Bill O'Brien, great coach, not so great as a GM. What smart GMs do is if you're going to give up the farm for a guy, via a trade, I mean, like that trade should be on the contingency that he's going to sign an extension right then and there, not eventually, not the ensuing off season. Whenever you trade multiple first round picks for any player, quarterback, left tackle, pass rusher. Like when Khalil Mack got traded to the Bears. I mean, it was Khalil Mack got traded to the Bears. Khalil Mack signs, like mega extension. That usually one follows the other. I think that's another team that might fall into that trap is the Los Angeles Rams with Jalen Ramsey. But like I said, this is Ravens podcast. I'm not gonna talk about that. But they traded multiple first round picks for Jalen Ramsey, and he's still waiting on his new deal. Like I said, he's looks like he got all that leverage for them too, and they're paying a lot of guys top dollar, even after cutting Todd Gurley. But like I said, the Larry Tunsil thing really kind of puts the Ravens in a bind with Stanley because like now Stanley's representatives can be like, dude, I'm way better than this dude. Like you can't, I can, if Larry Tunsil is getting 22, I'm at least 22.5. I hope that's not the case for Ronnie. I hope I'm not saying he needs to take way less or like just a little bit more to Costanzo. He don't need. I'm not saying he needs to match Costanzo's deal. Settle for Costanzo's deal, 16.5. I think a reasonable contract for top tier left tackle, especially a guy who's arguably the best in the game now. Um, I think anywhere between 17 to 18.5 million would suffice. And like I said, I think the kind of guys that the Ravens bring in and that they draft and develop are kind of guys that like team first guys. They're not worried about being the highest paid. Like the only person that the Ravens have really had the highest paid at their position was Joe Flacco. And that's just the nature of the quarterback position. But for the most part, the Ravens rarely pay top dollar for any position. The guys that they sign usually aren't among the league's highest paid. So I think Ronnie Stanley's not gonna try to strong arm the Ravens into resetting the market and leapfrogging Larry Tunsil's deal. Him as representatives realize like if we try to outdo the Tunsil deal, that means they're probably not gonna have enough money to sign or Zeus Jr., Leonard Brown Jr. down the road, or that means it's going to cost him, teammates later down the road that he's built continuity with. So obviously it's going to be a little tricky just because like that deal's there. You can't say that that it's not there. 22 million is a lot of money, but we'll see. Like I said, I hope the Ravens can iron out deals with both of these guys. Get long term extensions done with both of them. If it's not even long term, I know the Ravens typically like to do deals. Like to do like longer term deals. But in recent years they've been kind of doing shorter deals. Like Marcus Peters signed a 3-year extension, so he got 3 years tag. That's really what a lot of teams are doing. I mean, a lot of players are doing is decide they want to do the they want to take shorter contract just so they can get a piece of the piece of the pie, and while they're still in their respective prime, you're seeing a lot more guys sign 3-year deals, 2-year deals, just so they can kind of re up once the market gets reset again. So it's a real smart business part on the players' part, but I'm not sure if the Ravens want to do that with their franchise left tackle. With Ronnie Stanley, I think they're going to want to sign him for at least to a 4 to 5 year extension. 6 if they can manage that, but they're not Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys like sign people to 10 years, 6 year contracts, but that's not how they do it in Baltimore. But you never know. Like maybe we'll see what Eric Costa does. I know he's made it a priority to get deals worked out with both of these guys, and hopefully he can get them done, especially with guys like Marlon Humphrey and Lamar Jackson on the horizon. And the last thing we're going to talk about here is the schedule, the schedule release. The schedule release happened last week. It's going to kind of break down the Ravens schedule here. Um, Got five primetime games, tied for the most in franchise history, and tied for the most I mean, that's the max you can get. So they got the max. So we'll be seeing a lot of the Ravens on prime time, and I'm very excited for that. The first one was going to be Monday Night Football, Week 3 against the Chiefs in Baltimore. Can't wait for that game. The past 2 seasons, Ravens have played the Chiefs. It's always they just come up short just by that much. In 2018, first time it was Lamar versus Pat Mahomes. It was overtime. Lamar ended up rolling up an ankle. RG3 had to come in the game. If it wasn't, I don't know why CJ Mosley was back there. Guarding, I know he wasn't guarding Tariq Hill like stride for stride, but if CJ Mosley's fingers were maybe like 2 inches longer, that the Ravens would have won that game. And then last year it was just so many gambles that didn't work out in the Ravens' favor. Going for two, and then like two or three times going for a fourth down. Kind of missed opportunities what cost the Ravens. But this year, both of those games were in Arrowhead. This time around, it's going to be in Baltimore. I'm not sure how much of a home field advantage they might get just because of all the coronavirus stuff. But I think just the fact that it's not going to be in Arrowhead Stadium with all that crowd noise, I think is gonna kind of. I'm not saying that's gonna be the determining factor and who's gonna win the game, but I just think the fact that the Ravens are playing that opponent in their own house instead of going to their house, I think it's gonna be a nice thing to see, and just gotta see that home jersey instead of the white top, black pants. That's their away jerseys, the typical away jerseys. The Ravens do have the easiest strength of schedule based on the record of their opponents in 2019. But I mean, I really don't pay too much attention to the whole easiest schedule, toughest schedule thing because wins don't translate from year to year. Unless you're the New England Patriots, like I'm saying, like during the Tom Brady era, you don't have any wins guaranteed, from year to year. You're not guaranteed success from year to year. You're not going to play in the garbage AFC East every year, and so like if the Ravens do play the NFC East, which is one of the worst divisions of football last year. So like that bodes well for them. They play I think like 4 or 5 teams that are picking in the top 10 to close out the year, including the Jaguars, the Giants, and the Bengals in the season finale. And by that time, the Ravens could already have the top seed and the and home field advantage, and the AFC North wrapped up by then. So they might. I don't think they're going to sit their starters again, for the final week, if that's the case, just because they might have the first round bye. But I do see the starters playing at least the first half, just because they don't want to accrue that rust like I believe that they did by taking all that time off this past year once they secured the number 1 seed. Why the Ravens strength why the Ravens strength schedule seems to be easy. Like I said, they're playing the NFC East. Um, the Giants, Cowboys, Redskins, and Eagles win a combined 12 and 28 against non-divisional opponents in 2019. The worst record for any division since the league adopted this current format in 2002. And then, like I said, inside the division, the Bengals were 2-14 last year, the first overall pick. I think I remember Calais Campbell tweeted out something when Joe Burrow got selected, talking about can't wait to get acquainted or get to know you, something like that. I think Joe Burrow is going to have a tough time dealing with the Ravens defense. Um, in both in year one especially. You never know. He could have won in week 17 just because the Ravens might sit their starters in second half or for the entire game. You never really know. But like I said, I think it's gonna be tough sledding for the Bengals in 2020. But they could surprise a lot of teams just because I think that they have kind of personnel now that they're getting Jonah Williams back. They got Joe Burrow. They can draft T Higgins. They're getting AJ Green. You never know. The Bengals could surprise people, and I don't think they're going to be in playoff contention, but they could mess around and win 6-7 games. It's a nice uptick from 2-14. But like I said, the Browns. The thing that bodes well for the Ravens this year, more so than the strength of schedule, is the continuity. Continuity is the thing that they really can pride themselves on. I think the teams with continuity are going to have the most success this upcoming season. It's because of all this uncertainty with the whole coronavirus things, teams aren't able to have rookie mini camps, mandatory mini camps, off season workouts, OTAs, none of that stuff. So you're missing out on a lot of teams with new faces and new places. Like Tom Brady and the boys in Tampa Bay, or Tampa Bay, whatever you want to call it. Kevin Stefanski, the new Browns head coach, implementing his system. It's hard to implement a new system when you can't get together and implement the system. You can only do so much, virtually via Zoom or whatever. So I think teams with continuity, like the Ravens, like the Chiefs, like the Saints, are going to be more prepared, to kind of have be more prepared to have success in 2020, just because they know each other. The fact that the Ravens are returning both of their coordinators. How did the team that how did the team that finished 14-2, number one seed, home field advantage, best offense in the league, best scoring offense in the league, best rushing offense in the league, and one of the had a top five defense, and then the fact that they returned for both their coordinators is dumbfounding to me. I mean, I love it. Want some more of it. They both signed extensions this offseason. So the fact that the Ravens have continuity on the roster and the coaching staff, and it's just, like I said, it's one of the things that really bodes well for the Ravens, more so than their strength of schedule. Continuity is key in this league, and when you have the rapport between coaching staff and roster and front office, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing, and I think that's what's going to bode well for the Ravens most in this year. Um, I was gonna do a record prediction, but I really don't. It's like the thing is that it's just so you can't really predict the record. Like everybody thought the Chiefs were good. Like, I mean, but when I look at the schedule, I really don't see a game where, like, I don't think the Ravens can win that game. Now, when it comes to divisional games, you always know between the Steelers and the Ravens, the records kind of go out the window. So you never know. The Ravens could, they play in prime time on Thanksgiving. But the third game on Thanksgiving, I think that's like week 12 or week 11, and you never know. End up, dropping that game on Thanksgiving. Who knows? Just because you're playing the Steelers, Ravens Steelers. Now, some people may have said that game has lost some of its luster, that matchup, but I disagree. Whenever the Ravens Steelers play, it's almost like no matter what the team is going through, the other opposing team is going through, adversity or otherwise, all that goes out the window. It's Ravens Steelers. It's still one of the purest. It's still one of the fiercest and purest rivalries in the sport of football, especially at the NFL level. And I have great appreciation for it. Um, I think the both games are going to be about. I really don't believe any Ravens Steelers game should be in the 1 p.m. slot. But the first game that the Ravens play the Steelers, I think it's like week 7, and I think it's a 1 p.m. slot. Disrespect, utter disrespect. I don't care if one has to be a Thursday night, one has to be a Monday night, one has to be a Sunday night. It doesn't matter. The Ravens and Steelers rivalry is always good, especially if Ben can stay healthy. I don't know how many times you're going to be able to see the Big Ben versus Lamar Jackson, matchup, just because Ben's been hurt, and his days, I believe, in Pittsburgh are numbered, but you never know. But if I had the gun to my head, if I were to try to put a number on what the Ravens win this year. Now, if it was normal offseason, I say they might take a step back from the 14-2 season and maybe finish 13-3, 12-4, 11-5 at the worst. But because, like I said, the continuity part of it, and like strength of schedule does kind of matter. I mean, like the team, even though the Redskins have improved on paper, the Cowboys have improved mentally on paper, and the NFC East as a whole has improved mentally on paper, and the other teams in the division have improved immensely on paper. That doesn't necessarily mean they're gonna have success in 2020. So I think a team like the Ravens are primed to capitalize on some of the uncertainty, and was probably going to be some of the, how should I say this, inexperience with one another of some of the teams they're going to be facing. You're going to be facing a lot of young teams, a lot of teams with first year head coaches, first like a lot of places with new faces, new places. So like I said, gun to my head, I think the Ravens could really mess around and go the 14-2 again, if not 15-1. Like I said, the one game they might lose could be the either the I hope it's not the week 3 games to the Chiefs, but you never know. Like I said, they're one of the teams who had continuity to this offseason. But like I said, maybe week 3 to the Chiefs, or the Thanksgiving game to Pittsburgh. I really see the Ravens kind of being a dominant force on both sides of the ball this year, and it's really a force to be reckoned with. I do envision them winning the third straight AFC North title, and winning the number one seed again, and clinching home field advantage throughout the playoffs once again, and getting the one and only bye week. Um, yeah, of the conference because like now with the new playoff format, added a playoff team, and now only one team gets the bye week. That's gonna be number one seed. So I do think the Ravens will win the number one seed again. I think the Chiefs might struggle a bit with some of the other competition that they got in their own division. I mean, when you look at the other teams that in the division, I really feel like Denver is the team that's getting slept on right now. And I think like although all the weapons they added to Drew Luck's arsenal this offseason, is like I said, it's gonna give Chiefs a run for their Chiefs a run for their money. The Chargers improved pretty good. They didn't make too many splashy moves, but they made a lot of solid additions to their team. Um, and then like I said, the Raiders, and they're the Raiders. I don't always agree with the draft strategy, especially early, but they seem to kind of get it together later in the drafts. So I don't know. It's almost like John Gruden's making the picks in the first 2 days, and then Mike Mayhawk takes day three and kills it. I don't know. I don't know the ins and outs of that team, but this, like I said, it's Ravens only podcast. I want to thank you guys for stopping by. That's all I got for you guys this week. Hopefully, I can get back to you here pretty soon. Like I said, dealing with the newborn is it's a new experience for me. I'm having a blast. We're having a blast, and like I said, we'll talk to you again. Stay tuned for more.